The palace maid tried to drug the crown prince's wine, but I caught her. To protect his future, I switched the cups. The palace maid and a guard were later caught in bed together. In a fit of rage, the empress sentenced them to death. When the crown prince found out, he only looked disgusted. Shameless wench. She deserved it. But after he became emperor, he handed my pregnant self over to the eunuchs, letting them torment me to death. Only then did I realize the dead palace maid had been his hidden, untouchable love. When I woke up again, I was back at the banquet, coldly watching as the palace maid tampered with the wine. Jiang Chen tortured me to death. On the first month of our marriage, on the death anniversary of that palace maid, Zhiyun, he didn't even bother delaying it for a single day. Cold wine was forced down my throat. I thought it was poison. The imperial physician had just confirmed my pregnancy, but I hadn't even had the chance to tell him. Soon, the drug took effect. It wasn't the agony of poison burning through my intestines. It wasn't the unbearable heat of shame. He watched my suffering with icy indifference. Meng Shui, does it hurt? The palace doors swung open, and the most sadistic eunuch in the palace stepped in. His filthy, freezing hands roamed my body. I shuddered in revulsion, my vision turning red. I stared at Jiang Chen in disbelief. Jiang Chen, why? I was his empress, the mother of his unborn child. Yet he handed me over to the lowest, most vile eunuchs to be humiliated and tortured. My embroidered gown was torn to shreds, along with my dignity. They laughed as they manhandled me. Your Majesty's skin is so fair, even softer than the palace maid's. Don't think about dying yet, Your Majesty. The night is still long. Jiang Chen held up a memorial tablet, looking down at me as if admiring a spectacle. The eunuchs dragged my limp body to the floor, forcing me to bow to the name carved on the wood. Do you remember how Zhiyun died? This is what you owe her. His eyes were filled with nothing but ruthless hatred. Zhiyun? I bit my lip until it bled, forcing myself to stay conscious. I finally remembered that small, unremarkable name, and that delicate, pale face. She had been a mere maid in the Eastern Palace. Yet at the banquet celebrating my engagement to Jiang Chen, she had secretly drugged his wine. For Jiang Chen's sake, to protect the crown prince's reputation, I had switched the cups. By pure accident, a palace guard had ended up drinking it instead. Later, she and that guard were caught in bed together. The empress, enraged, ordered them to be beaten to death. When news of Zhiyun's death reached Jiang Chen, he had only reacted with cold disgust. A shameless wench. She deserved it. But all these years, he had secretly held on to that memory, blaming me for ruining her purity, blaming me for killing her. Meng Shui, you brought this on yourself. I want you to suffer the same pain Yuner did. That winter night I died, half naked, blood soaking the golden bricks of the palace floor. You clumsy fool, can't even hold a cup properly. This is for His Highness. Pour another one, quickly. At the Eastern Palace banquet, two palace maids bumped into each other. The wine spilled from their trays. I happened to witness the scene. The palace maid Jiang Chen remembered for a lifetime. Zhiyun was scolded harshly. She bit her lip, eyes welling up like a pitiful little rabbit. But when she turned away and saw no one was looking, she swiftly pulled out a small pouch and sprinkled powder into the cup. In my past life, I had considered everything for Jiang Chen. I had devoted myself to helping him ascend the throne. I hadn't made things difficult for that scheming maid. I simply switched the cups. Who would have thought? That maid was the woman Jiang Chen secretly cherished. That until the day I bled out on the palace floor, he would look at me with silent, burning hatred. This time, I wouldn't stop her. This time, I would help them. Without my interference, Jiang Chen soon drank the drugged wine. Zhiyun, who had been serving at his side, kept glancing over at him. Her eyes gleamed with satisfaction. I pretended not to notice. Halfway through the banquet, the drug took effect. Jiang Chen's eyes turned red, his breath growing unsteady. He stood up but could barely keep his balance. Feigning concern, I reached out. Your Highness, are you all right? Ji Yun quickly rushed forward, shoving past me to support him. She spoke in a gentle voice. Miss Meng, His Highness has a low tolerance. He's drunk. Allow this servant to take him out to rest. Jiang Chen stiffened, irritation flashing across his face. You think I'm soft? Shui, did you hurt yourself? Striking her only dirties your hands. Why bother? Then, he turned to her and snapped. Get lost. Stop making a fool of yourself. To my surprise, a mere palace maid, pampered beyond measure, fell to her knees and glared at me. Birth is not something one can choose. I may be lowly, but my concern for His Highness is sincere. As women, shouldn't we support each other? You, a noble woman, why don't you understand this? How can you, as a daughter of the military, bully someone weaker than you? In my past life, after I switched Jiang Chen's cup, I had never heard such bold words from her. This time, it wasn't just me. Even Jiang Chen's expression darkened. You lowly maid, do you even know your place? Kneel here and reflect on your mistake. As Jiang Chen struggled more and more to control himself, his gaze toward me grew heated. In this life, how could I possibly let him get close and sully me? I smiled generously and said, Today is our joyous engagement day. There's no need for punishment by kneeling. Instead, I'll punish you by having you escort His Highness the Crown Prince out to rest. Make sure to take good care of him. Ji Yun was stunned. The jealousy in her eyes couldn't be concealed, though she lowered her head, hiding the dark delight in her gaze. This servant thanks Miss Meng for your kindness. I will take good care of His Highness the Crown Prince. Jiang Chen, who had been holding back for a long time, did not refuse. He leaned completely against Ji Yun. I watched their retreating figures, the corners of my lips curling into a cold smile. This was just the beginning of my revenge, to utterly disgrace this shameless pair. As expected, while taking care of him, Ji Yun took things all the way to the bed. She had been cautious, choosing a secluded palace where they wouldn't easily be discovered. Inside the palace, ambiguous sounds filled the air, interspersed with Jiang Chen's furious roar. Audacious wench! How dare you drug me? Ji Yun wept weakly. This servant has admired your highness for many years. Finally, my wish has come true. Can your highness keep only Yun'er by your side? Though I am but a lowly servant, I also wish to spend a lifetime with your highness, just the two of us together. I sneered. A mere servant girl, yet such wild ambition. Jiang Chen's rebukes gradually turned into ragged breaths. Silently, I approached and locked the palace doors with a heavy bronze lock. Then, I returned to the banquet, drinking calmly as if nothing had happened. The Empress, noticing the Crown Prince's absence, frowned and asked me, Shi, where's the Crown Prince? You're about to become the Crown Princess, yet you don't even keep an eye on him. She hadn't even married me into the family yet, and she was already reprimanding me in public. I put on an innocent expression. His Highness was drunk. A servant escorted him out to rest. The Empress's face darkened even further. Chen'er has a low tolerance for alcohol. How could you let him drink so much? No matter what, everything was always my fault. Feigning panic, I bowed and said, Your Highness, I will go find him right away. Not trusting me, the Empress ordered her personal maids to search for Jiang Chen as well. Of course, the resting palace was empty. I hurried back to the banquet, drawing everyone's attention. Your Highness, the Crown Prince is missing. We've searched several halls, but haven't found him. What? The Empress's face changed drastically. The banquet fell into chaos as everyone began searching for Jiang Chen. The Eastern Palace wasn't that big. Before long, someone discovered the secluded hall. Feigning suspicion, I said, In broad daylight, why would the palace doors be locked? Could there be an intruder inside? Hearing this, the Empress immediately became nervous and summoned the Imperial Guards. Break the door open. The guests at the banquet, eager for a spectacle, gathered around the palace entrance. With a loud crash, the doors were forced open. The room seemed empty. The empress hesitated, unwilling to step inside. Understandingly, I said, "Your Highness, your esteemed self should not be troubled. I come from a military family. Allow me to check inside for you." The bed was a mess, the blankets still tangled. I walked straight to the wardrobe and pulled it open. Two disheveled figures tumbled out.
Ah!
How could this be? I let out a perfectly timed shriek. Ji Yun's body was covered in bruises, a clear sign of what had transpired between her and the crown prince. Jiang Chen glared at me with fury and instinctively shielded Ji Yun behind him. Hearing my scream, everyone outside rushed into the hall. I trembled slightly, bit my lip, and forced tears into my eyes. "Today is the day of our engagement. Your Highness, how could you betray me with a palace maid? How can I, or the general's manor, ever hold our heads high again?" The empress was even more furious than I was. For the crown prince to lose all restraint and dally with a maid in the middle of a banquet, if this spread, he would become the laughingstock of the entire empire. Not to mention, the emperor had other grown princes, all eyeing the Eastern Palace throne. I was eager to see how far Jiang Chen and his beloved maid could go in this lifetime without my support. A sharp slap rang out. The empress struck Ji Yun across the face, just as she had in my previous life, placing all the blame squarely on her. Shameless wench, seducing the crown prince and defiling the palace. Guards, drag her out and give her 50 lashes. Ji Yun's frail body wouldn't survive 50 strokes. She would die before they were finished. Jiang Chen disregarded the watching crowd and shielded her. "Mother, it's not Ji Yun's fault. I lost control. She may have a lowly background, but she has been by my side for years, more gentle and kind than any noblewoman. I have long wanted to grant her a proper title." I seized the opportunity and whispered, my voice laced with sorrow, "Then what about me? What am I to you, Your Highness? Am I to gain a younger sister before I even marry in?" Ji Yun, cowering behind him, went limp as if she had fainted from fright. Jiang Chen didn't have time to answer. He hastily gathered her into his arms and turned to plead with the empress. "Mother, I beg you, please grant Ji Yun the title of a secondary consort. If you refuse, I will not rise from my knees." The empress scolded him harshly, calling him foolish. She ordered him to kneel and sober up. But once the guests left, she immediately found me. "Shuyi, you've suffered so much. It was just a moment of foolishness on Cheng'er's part that led to him wronging you. You two have known each other since childhood. You understand him better than anyone, don't you? Please forgive him this time. Men can't resist the charms of women. They make mistakes easily. As the future king, Cheng'er can't always be made to kneel." She spoke softly, as if the one who had erred was me, urging me to lower my head and compromise. Before I could respond, the empress sent someone to help Cheng'er stand. Cheng'er called for the best imperial physician to stay with the unconscious Ji Yun, not showing his face. Back at the general's manor, my mother held me tightly, her face filled with sorrow. "My daughter, you haven't even married into the Eastern Palace, and you're already suffering such humiliation. The crown prince is no good. I can see that the maid has her own schemes. It's better to call off the marriage now," I replied, comforting her. "The marriage was decided by His Majesty. It's not easy to break it off. Tomorrow, Father and I will go to the Golden Lawn Hall to see the Emperor." In the last life, I defended Cheng'er's reputation. In this life, the streets and alleys are gossiping about Cheng'er's lust for women, his daylight debauchery, and some even openly spit at him, saying he's unfit to be the future emperor. Some even pity me a little. I don't care. I'm the one who made this happen. What I'm receiving now is just the interest on what I sowed in the past. In the Golden Lawn Hall, Father knelt, begging the emperor to retract the decree and annul the marriage. Father has fought all his life and achieved great military success. One could say that without the Meng family, there wouldn't be the prosperous state we have now. The emperor personally helped Father up and ordered for Cheng'er to be brought in. Cheng'er was even more foolish than I had imagined. He still refused to lower his head and admit his mistake in front of the emperor, saying stubbornly, Father taught me that when you make a mistake, you must take responsibility. What's wrong with wanting to take responsibility? For Jian, Mother has already agreed, and once Meng Shi enters the palace, I'll make Xian my concubine. He was clearly frustrated, turning to me and saying, "We've known each other since childhood. Meng Shi, can't you even tolerate a palace maid as a concubine? You want to call off the wedding and stir up trouble for my father?" His words provoked the emperor's fury. "It's my failure to teach him properly. I will make sure the crown prince wakes up." Chunga was dragged outside the Golden Lawn Hall. The emperor personally supervised the punishment, with the imperial guard wielding a whip, striking Chunga, who was kneeling. The sound of each lash striking his skin echoed. Chunga had been pampered by the empress since childhood, never enduring such punishment. After just a few lashes, he couldn't help but cry out, "Father, stop. I know I was wrong." I heard the sound of the whip on his flesh, his cries of despair. In my heart, there was nothing but immense satisfaction. Soon, the empress was alarmed. She threw herself on Chunga, trying to block the lashes, pleading for her son's life. "Your Majesty, he is my only son. Are you trying to kill him?" Then she saw me. Hatred flashed across her elegant face. She dragged me into this, saying, "Shi, the crown prince is your future husband. Look at how he's being beaten. Why don't you beg for his mercy?" I purposely lowered my head, pretending to be troubled. Father stepped in front of me first. "The crown prince hasn't even married Shi yet, and he's already entangled with a palace maid. How can we be sure he won't favor concubines over my daughter in the future? I've come here today to call off the engagement." The empress was stunned. She quickly came forward, holding my hand warmly, but I pulled away. "Shi and Chunga have known each other since childhood. Who else could you marry if not him? There's no better position than being the crown prince's consort." She spoke as if I would be left without anyone else to marry. She thought that without the Meng family's support, Chunga, this fool who is only interested in love, could really ascend the throne? She was just as foolish and blind. "Shi, stop being unreasonable," she coaxed gently. "It's just a woman. She's only a concubine. She can't get in the way of your relationship with the crown prince." Chunga couldn't bear to see this. His mother, the empress, was bowing her head to me. He gasped, gritting his teeth, "Mother, stop pleading with her. Meng Shi, if you keep acting high and mighty, you'll regret it." I curled my lips and couldn't help but smile. I stood and kneeled in front of the emperor, speaking clearly. "I cannot tolerate any sand in my eyes. My fate with the crown prince has come to an end. I voluntarily break off the engagement to allow the crown prince and the maid Ji Yun to be together." Chunga panicked. He hadn't expected me to be so resolute, breaking off the engagement. The emperor slammed his hand on the table. "Marriage is not a game. The engagement between you and the crown prince was decided by me. How can you just break it off like this? Chunga, you were in the wrong. Go and apologize to Miss Meng." "What?" Both he and the empress shouted in unison. The empress, unwilling, said bitterly, "Your Majesty, Chunga is the crown prince. The crown prince is no different from any other commoner when he commits a crime. Chunga made a mistake, and it's your failure to discipline him." Faced with the emperor's anger, the empress had no choice but to remain silent. Having just been punished, Chunga, bloodied and furious, reluctantly knelt in front of me, begging for forgiveness. "Shi, forgive me. It was my improper behavior. I was momentarily confused." After saying this, he lowered his voice and warned, "You've already vented your anger on me, so just stop now. Don't make things worse." I sat still, not even sparing him a glance. Chunga, humiliated, was filled with resentment. "I've done everything I could. What more do you want from me? Jian may be a palace maid, but she's as pure as an unyielding plum blossom, noble and virtuous. She's no less than any of those noble ladies from distinguished families. My marriage with the crown prince wasn't easily annulled, but I wasn't in a hurry at all, because I knew someone would lose their patience before me. As soon as Jiang Chen's wounds had healed, He couldn't wait to bring his maid, Ji Yun, to the general's residence. Jiang Chen forced a smile and said, "Shi, don't be angry. I've brought Ji Yun here to apologize to you." Ji Yun hadn't been well in the East Palace these past few days. She had grown even thinner, her figure weak like a willow, and when she reached me, she knelt down. With reddened eyes, she spoke weakly. "I was wrong. I've disturbed Mrs. Peace. I didn't expose her for deliberately drugging me. I just wanted to see how far she could go in her performance. Miss, if you want to punish me, I'll accept it." I quickly caught the pity in Jiang Chen's eyes. But I didn't strike her or punish her, as I didn't want to soil my hands. I simply made her kneel. After only half an hour, Jian couldn't hold it any longer and collapsed in exhaustion. Jiang Chen caught her just in time. He could no longer tolerate it and snapped, "Meng Shui, are you really this cruel? Isn't punishing her enough? Aren't you afraid of others hearing about this and laughing at you for being jealous?" He wasn't afraid of others mocking him for indulging in female company and being weak. So why should I be afraid? Wasn't this supposed to be an apology? I looked at Ji Yun, who was hiding in his arms, pale-faced, and said, "Just apologizing with a simple 'I'm sorry.' Does that count as an apology? When I marry into the East Palace, she'll still only be a concubine, and I will set the rules." Ji Yun trembled and lifted her face toward me, saying, "Miss Meng, I come from another place, where there is no distinction between noble and lowly. We must fight for what we want. There should never be masters and servants in this world. Everyone should be equal. I only admire His Highness the Crown Prince, and I just want to be by his side. Am I wrong? What makes you all nobler than me?" Her rebellious words, however, were met with Jiang Chen's doting expression. I smiled faintly and said nothing. Noble families spend generations accumulating power, wealth, and influence to reach their current status. Even my Meng family, whose wealth allows us to dine like royalty, owes it to my father's countless battles. But she casually mentions equality for all, as if the world should share the wealth of the empire. Why should she? Could the empire conquered by the emperor be shared with her? In my past life, I actually lost to such a naive, ignorant woman. Before I could do anything, my maid Xiao'er slapped her hard across the face. "What's this, you and I? Such lack of manners. No matter how much the crown prince favors you, you're still just a servant in the East Palace." Jiang Chen reacted angrily and tried to strike back, but he didn't reach my maid as I raised my hand to stop him. I met his furious gaze. "This is the general's residence, not your East Palace. My maid is not for you to teach a lesson." Jiang Chen retracted his hand in hatred. "Meng Shui, you are utterly cruel. If you don't want to marry me, then I don't want to marry you either. Ji Yun's wisdom and uniqueness surpass that of you, this vulgar noblewoman. I'll go to father and beg him to annul our engagement. Don't regret it when you come begging me." I didn't even bother to see them off, letting Jiang Chen walk away with his maid, parading in public. That night, Jiang Chen and Ji Yun knelt together outside the emperor's study, begging the emperor to annul the marriage. He would rather die than marry me. The emperor, furious, let him kneel there. Jiang Chen knelt outside for an entire day and night. Finally, the empress, feeling sorry for her son, joined him in kneeling. The emperor then ordered Jiang Chen to return to the East Palace and be confined until further notice. Jiang Chen was content, as long as he could stay with his beloved maid. But he didn't know that his defiance of the emperor and insistence on marrying a palace maid had become the laughingstock of the streets, turned into songs and mockery. No one didn't laugh at him for being foolish and obsessed with women. The emperor, intending to compensate me, sent treasures and rare gems flooding into the general's residence. This made the empress furious. According to my father, who went to court daily, the emperor had started to consider deposing the crown prince. The empress acted quickly. As soon as the emperor began to reconsider the crown prince, she took Ji Yun out of the East Palace that very night and sent her to a desolate place, planning to deal with the beauty that caused chaos. This time, I was one step ahead, setting up spies around the East Palace. The moment the carriage carrying Ji Yun left, I ordered my eunuch, who was delivering meals, to inform Jiang Chun of this news. Furious at this news, Jiang Chun, unrestrained, went mad. He and his men beat the guards of the East Palace half to death, disregarding the emperor's orders, riding out on horseback. He managed to rescue Ji Yun just before she was about to be buried alive. Their tragic love story reached the emperor's ears. The next day, the emperor issued a decree in his imperial study. The crown prince has no virtue and acts erratically. He has repeatedly defied the emperor's orders. He is hereby deposed from his position as crown prince and will be moved out of the East Palace immediately. Jiang Chun, upon hearing this, only became depressed for a while. He comforted the empress. The throne is too lonely. It's better to be a carefree prince, as long as I can be with the one I love. The emperor, with his 3 palaces and 6 courtyards, cannot compare to what Ji Yun and I want. One life, one love. When the empress heard him speak such nonsense, she was furious, unable to recover for a long time. Upon hearing the spy's reports from the East Palace, I almost laughed out loud. It was difficult for him to even hold on to the throne. However, deposing him as crown prince was not enough to make up for the grievances of my past life. I thought that Jiang Chen's position as crown prince was secure. But the empress unexpectedly died. She had been kneeling outside the emperor's study, begging him to retract the decree. The emperor refused to see her. In her desperation, the empress knelt until midnight, and in one breath, she passed away on the spot. The emperor, in his grief, almost killed Jiang Chen for his unfilial behavior. But his trusted eunuchs stopped him. Out of respect for the empress's final plea, the emperor kept Jiang Chen's title as crown prince. I was just a bit disappointed. The fool who wore the dragon robe was still a fool. Jiang Chun would still make mistakes. I just needed to wait for the right moment to ensure he would never rise again. The little eunuch from the East Palace secretly came to the general's residence, reporting Jiang Chen's every move. Miss Meng didn't marry the crown prince. She's lucky, escaping the misery. The crown prince is useless, like an embroidered pillow. After the empress died, he drank heavily every day and couldn't resist the loneliness, even having relations with Ji Yun by the empress's coffin. The former empress, from the heavens, would surely be enraged by her reckless son. I gave him a reward and instructed him to keep watching Jiang Chen, ensuring no mistake he made would go unnoticed. He trampled over his mother's cold corpse, continuing to indulge in his love affair. How long could he and his moonlight last? I was eagerly waiting for their end. It didn't take long for the opportunity to arrive. After the queen passed away, the emperor, overwhelmed with grief, coughed up blood repeatedly, and his health deteriorated day by day. He had no choice but to let go and give Jiang Chen the chance to manage state affairs. At the same time, enemy forces from the north were approaching, and several city gates were breached. Jiang Chen had no choice but to bow his head and personally come to the general's residence to beg my father to don his armor and lead the army to drive back the invaders. Ever since Jiang Chen had stopped managing court matters, my father had been feigning illness, resting at home, and enjoying his leisure. It wasn't exactly pretending to be ill, though. After years of campaigning for the country, my father had accumulated many old injuries that were difficult to treat. Jiang Chen, dressed in the prince's dragon robe, came to the Meng family with great authority, his hands behind his back, exuding an imposing aura. When he saw me, he looked down and asked, "Meng Shuyi, do you regret it now? I'm about to ascend the throne, and you could have been the empress. Why are you so ungrateful, unwilling to behave properly?" He then pulled over Ji Yun, who, once a lowly palace maid, had risen to become the most favored person by his side. Dressed in fine silks, her jewelry gleamed. Ji Yun looked at me with an unmistakable smugness. She softly said, "I told you before, Miss Meng, don't be too arrogant. What's so special about being a general's daughter? Look at you now, having to bow to me instead." I replied calmly, "Are you here to show off, Prince? My father is ill, so he cannot entertain you. Someone see them out." Jiang Chen's anger, made the veins on his forehead bulge. Meng Shuyi, who do you think you are? How dare you chase me away?
Call your father out.
The border army is under attack, and he must lead the troops there. I coldly sneered. Is this how the prince asks for help? My father is lying in the inner room, and the prince can go meet him himself. Jiang Chen glared at me, and no matter what excuse he used, my father refused to lead the troops. He claimed he was too old and no longer useful. Standing beside the bed, Jiang Chen's face turned dark with anger. He shouted, "Does your Meng family think there's no one in the court? You think this prince can't force you? Meng Shuyi, I've given you a chance. Your Meng family should hand over the military authority. It's just a small enemy force. I can lead the troops myself." Jiang Chen, this fool, had only read a few military books and really thought he could command an army and conquer the battlefield with ease. I internally scoffed. Handing him the military token of the Meng family was a decision I would regret, for I knew he would return it soon enough. Standing beside him, the small palace maid Ji Yun was even more arrogant than him, not knowing her own limits. With a smile, she said to me, "Miss Meng, you've only read the 4 books and 5 classics. Have you ever heard of explosives? A single bomb can kill thousands, far more useful than your cold weapons." I looked at her with mild derision and asked, "So impressive, can you make one?" Ji Yun hesitated and then said stubbornly, "I'm from the humanities, I don't know how to make them, but I've learned a lot of knowledge. I also studied history and military tactics. Without your Meng family, I could still help the prince win this battle." Ji Yun and the prince went to the battlefield, leading tens of thousands of soldiers with great confidence. They treated the battlefield like a simple outing. Before leaving, Jiang Chen asked me for a map of the frontier. I refused to give it to him. The Meng family scouts had brought the map, and I would not give it to him so easily. Jiang Chen didn't take it seriously. With a look of disdain, he arrogantly said, "Meng Shuyi, let your Meng family enjoy a few peaceful days. When I return victorious, I'll settle things with you." He knew nothing about the hardships of the frontier and, taking his woman with him, went off to battle. Soon, news of the battle reached us. Jiang Chen won a few small skirmishes, but under the influence of the woman beside him, who claimed to be from the future, he pressed too deep into the desert, got lost, and was surrounded by enemy forces, suffering a crushing defeat. The woman beside him had never seen the brutal reality of the battlefield. The knowledge she had learned was useless. The surviving soldiers reported that Ji Yun was so frightened she collapsed, vomiting uncontrollably. Then, she abandoned the prince and fled with the remaining soldiers. Jiang Chen, the prince, was saved by the remaining soldiers and returned to the capital with his doomed lover. News of the defeat spread like wildfire. When they returned to court, I went to see them. The 2 of them were riding horses, and the surrounding citizens continuously threw rotten eggs and spat at them. Adulterers, bringing a woman to the battlefield. The country will be ruined by you. If it weren't for the soldiers holding back the enraged crowd, Jiang Chen and Ji Yun might have been torn apart by the righteous citizens. In the end, the ailing emperor intervened, comforting my father, granting the Meng family more titles, and giving us the military token. Only then did my father don his armor and lead the troops to help Jiang Chen clean up the mess. After returning to the Eastern Palace, Jiang Chen was jointly impeached by the officials in the court. Every petition against him was filled with angry criticisms, accusing him of being useless and unworthy to be the heir apparent. Jiang Chen shrank back like a turtle, hiding in the Eastern Palace. According to the eunuchs in the palace, Jiang Chen, who had been drinking heavily every day, had struck Ji Yun. He had scolded her, calling her a national calamity and a witch, and threatened to burn her alive. I once thought they would bond in times of hardship. In the end, they only grew to despise each other. What would Jiang Chen think about the outcome of him and Ji Yun in the past life? Sure enough, the unattainable is always the cherished moon. Once obtained, it is no more than plain rice. Mother brought me portraits of the young and handsome men from the royal city and placed them before me. The prince has no fortune, He cannot marry our Shu Yi, she said. Among these men, Shu Yi, pick carefully. Is there anyone suitable? I glanced at the portraits, then shut them and handed them back to her. Mother, puzzled, asked, Shu Yi, what does this mean? None of them catch your eye. I shook my head. Mother, I don't want to marry anymore. There are so few trustworthy men in the world. Rather than depend on others and live like a parasite, it is better to rely on myself. I was meant to be like a rock, a towering tree. Why should I rely on others, give my heart and soul to live in a secluded inner residence, and sacrifice for men only to be betrayed and used as a stepping stone? Mother was taken aback. But all women are supposed to live like this. Mother, let me be the first to break free from this cage. I am willing to fight for the country and the people, to shed my blood on the battlefield. But I will never be beneath men. I want them to look up to me. Mother dropped the scroll in her hand and sighed. Shu Yi, this is a path that no one has walked, an extremely difficult one. Wouldn't it be better to marry, take care of the inner house, and become the mistress of the household? If not the crown prince's wife, I will find a well-matched husband for you. In my past life, I thought the same way. I gave everything for Jiang Chen, placing him above all else, believing he would remember my goodness and treat me kindly. But after I died, he still couldn't let go of his resentment. Fearing my father's influence among the people, he concocted a crime and wiped out the entire Meng family. He even built a pagoda for Ji Yun on the remains of the Meng family. The loyal bones of my Meng family were suppressed by a vile woman, forever unable to reincarnate, paying for her sins. Marriage is a gamble. Since I can control my own life, why should I gamble with myself and my family? Mother, no matter how hard or painful the road is, I am willing to walk it. I will tread a path with my blood, and from now on, all daughters of the world will walk forward, stepping on my corpse. Someone has to be the first to stand up. I would rather it be me, opening a path for all the women who have no way out. Mother was silent for a long time, sitting alone by the stone table. I thought she would be angry, scold me for being rebellious. But then, she looked up, her eyes slightly red, and said, Shu Yi, you are indeed the daughter of a general. Your father and I did not teach you in vain. Go, do what you want to do. Even if you fail, the spirits of the ancestors of the Meng family will not blame you. They will be proud of you. Mother conveyed my thoughts to father. That night, father came to see me. Shu Yi, this is the path you chose, and I will do my best to teach you. But you must endure hardship. I am not afraid, not at all afraid. No matter how painful or hard, it will be better than the death I experienced in my past life. From that day on, Mother burned all the portraits and never mentioned marrying me off again. While Jiang Chen lay drunk in his warm, comfortable world, I woke up before dawn to practice martial arts, standing in the snow for 2 hours, motionless in a horse stance. While Jiang Chen was in conflict with Ji Yun, searching for treasures to please her, I studied military tactics with father, reading through strategy books under the light until late into the night, practicing martial arts. I was waiting for an opportunity. Jiang Chen was unfit to be the ruler of the world. Then I will choose another one. On Jiang Chen's birthday, he held a grand banquet in the Eastern Palace, extravagantly celebrating. When he saw me, he looked at me with hatred, as though we were enemies. Meng Shu Yi, you have repeatedly refused to help me. See, without you, I have still secured the position of crown prince in the Eastern Palace. He arrogantly clapped his hands, and a group of beauties, resembling Ji Yun, came out one by one to perform dances. You've already lost your position by my side. Now, you come to beg me? It's too late. Jiang Chen raised an eyebrow. His once handsome face was now twisted with smugness and cruelty, looking like a vicious wolf. Oh, I forgot. Ji Yun, who had repeatedly thrown tantrums and refused to allow any other women near Jiang Chen, had irritated him. In a fit of anger, he collected a group of women who resembled Ji Yun, intending to tame her and force her to soften. The woman he had loved for a lifetime still had no position, only the awkward status of a palace maid in the Eastern Palace. Their love-hate relationship was as dramatic as any opera. I simply listened quietly, smiling. Such a person becoming the ruler of the world would be a disaster for the common people. I couldn't be bothered to engage with Jiang Chun or argue with him. As the banquet dishes were served, I was about to pick up my chopsticks when a hand grabbed my wrist. It was a young boy, about 14 or 15 years old, carved from jade and porcelain. He had striking features, his eyes as clear as water, exuding all the vitality of the royal family. "Sister, don't eat. I just saw, the food has poison in it." It was our first meeting, and yet I believed him. From the seat of honor, Jiang Chun wore a faint smile, occasionally glancing in my direction. This only confirmed the young boy's words. I asked him, "Who are you? Why are you helping me?" The boy, embarrassed, his porcelain-like cheeks flushed with a pink hue, said, "Sister, I'm not a bad person. I'm from the Yuangfu." "Sister, you are different from the weak noblewomen in the royal city. Just now, when you used a slingshot to bring down the kite from the tree. I don't want anyone to harm you." I couldn't help but reach out and ruffle his soft hair. Seeing his bright eyes and his cute, red ears, I smiled. "You helped me once. I'll give you a gift in return." He followed me closely, like a little tail. "Sister, can I learn how to use a slingshot and archery? I know you're from General Meng's family. General Meng is unbeatable, and I admire him greatly." I pinched his soft little face. "You have sweet words. Once you grow up, will you not end up fooling all the young girls in the royal city?" He didn't resist. Instead, he looked at me seriously. "Sister, I'm not lying. I won't deceive those girls. They don't interest me." Under his intense gaze, my heart fluttered. This young boy, at such a young age, already had the charm to captivate hearts. After releasing my hand, I pretended to eat the food in front of me, feigning dizziness and discomfort. I called for a servant to ask, "I'm feeling unwell. Is there somewhere I can rest for a moment?" The servant's eyes flickered as they led the way. "Miss Meng, this way please." The path grew more secluded, and I couldn't help but laugh coldly. Jiang Chen's methods hadn't improved, still using underhanded tricks. With memories from my past life, I wasn't going to be tricked again. "Miss Meng, please come in." When I smelled the strange fragrance inside, I didn't move. The servant, anxious, surged, "Miss Meng, the room inside is very clean." Just as he finished speaking, I knocked him unconscious with a quick chop and threw him inside. As I turned, I found the young boy following me. He was in a rush, beads of sweat appearing on his forehead. "Sister, where did you go?" I didn't answer him, nor did I want him to see the filth in the palace too soon. I simply walked aimlessly and asked, "By the way, what's your name?" "Sister, remember me. My name is Jiang Wang." As the two walked through the thicket, they heard the muffled moans of a woman in passion from within. Jiang Wang lowered his voice and asked, "Sister, what's going on in there?" He was still so young, and in the royal manner, he shouldn't have been assigned a concubine or a maid yet. I quickly covered his ears. "There's a fight going on inside. Stay here, I'll go check." He believed me without question and obediently waited outside the thicket. I quietly entered, hiding behind the shadows of flowers, where I saw two people entangled together. Unexpectedly, the people involved were not the ones I'd expected. It was Jiang Chen's cherished Ji Yun, but the other man was the same guard from my past life who had an affair with her. Interesting. The man on Ji Yun's side was tall and sturdy, his martial skills evident, and his face was handsome. No wonder Ji Yun couldn't resist the loneliness and was moved. She snuggled in the guard's embrace, softly speaking, "Zishi, take me away. I've had enough of the crown prince. I don't want to spend my life with no title and no standing, just following him." I leaned against the tree, listening to the sweet nothings between these two. My eyes narrowed. This play needed to be witnessed by Jiang Chen himself. I ordered one of my informants in the East Palace to notify Jiang Chen that I had lost my purity in the secret room. Jiang Chen didn't suspect anything and eagerly came to witness my disgrace. When he arrived with his entourage, I threw a stone at Ji Yun's smooth shoulder. They were startled, and Ji Yun hurriedly tried to fix her disheveled clothes. Let's go, someone might be coming. The moment they came out, they ran directly into Jiang Chen. He stood frozen for a moment before rage consumed him. Ignoring the onlookers, he grabbed Ji Yun by the neck. Bitch, you dare betray me. I ignored you for just a few days, and you have the audacity to put this on me. The guard realized something was wrong and fled, leaving Ji Yun to face Jiang Chen's fury. Ji Yun's pitiful face turned purple as he choked her. She tried to hold her ground, keeping her head high, as she had when Jiang Chen once adored her. What did I do wrong? You betrayed me first. You were all over those replacements. Why shouldn't I move on? I'm not your property. Jiang Chen, you promised me you would respect me. I'm not like the women of this age. I value freedom. In his fury, Jiang Chen released her and laughed madly. Ji Yun, you're just a lowly palace maid, a plaything for me. You really think you're something? It was my mistake. I once took you too seriously. Once I ascend the throne, what beauties won't I have? Why would I need you, a loose woman? Ji Yun finally panicked. Her words about dignity, equality, and freedom were just things Jiang Chen gave her when he felt like it. When he no longer cared, he could take it all away. Only supreme power was the foundation of existence. No matter how fun the plaything, it was still a plaything. The affection a man shows you is just like foam on water. It bursts with the slightest touch. She had too much confidence, thinking that her uniqueness and beauty would hold a man forever. Your Highness, I know I was wrong. She finally knelt, begging Jiang Chen to soften his heart. I'll listen now. As long as I stay by your side, I won't ask for anything. I can even tolerate those replacements. I turned my eyes away disinterestedly. Her pride and self-confidence were what truly attracted Jiang Chen. Without them, she was no different from the women of this age. Jiang Chen didn't immediately kill her. He didn't lock her in a water prison and torture her slowly either. That guard didn't escape either. They both met the same fate they had in the previous life. The informants in the East Palace said the crown prince had gone mad. Mad in the truest sense. Ji Yun had betrayed him, and he began to take pleasure in torturing women. He hung Ji Yun, cutting her with a knife every day, but not allowing her to die. He wanted her to endure pain and regret every day. That wasn't enough for him. Jiang Chen began to gather women for his harem, abducting noble girls from the streets and locking them up in the East Palace to torture them. Sister, that day I stayed outside as you told me, didn't move a step. Can you teach me archery? The young boy looked at me longingly when he reached the Meng family gate. I didn't refuse. I blindfolded Jiang Wang's bright eyes, and his ears turned red. I held his porcelain-like, slender fingers, aiming the arrow at the target. Archery doesn't require you to look with your eyes. Feel it with your heart. The warm breath that escaped my lips brushed against his ear, and the red flush on his ears spread all the way to his face. Sister? His voice trembled slightly. I'll learn seriously. I wrapped my hand around his delicate fingers. Jiang Wang, are you afraid of death? On the battlefield, you could die at any time, wrapped in horsehide. I'm not afraid. His voice was firm. I'll protect this world, with you, sister. I smiled, released his hand, and shot the arrow directly into the bullseye. Well then, I'll help you rise to the top. The country will be my gift, in return for your saving me. Jiang Wang was my choice after much consideration. The Yuan residents had long since fallen, lacking any real power, so no one would use him to meddle in politics. I helped Jiang Wang ascend to the throne, and no one questioned his bloodline. After careful thought over the past period, I realized he was pure-hearted, cared for the common people, and was well-educated, far more suitable to rule the world than Jiang Chen. When the emperor fell seriously ill, he refused to relinquish power for a long time and didn't leave behind a will. Under the instigation of my spies, Jiang Chen could no longer hold back. He surrounded the palace and forced the emperor to abdicate. I used the imperial military tokens to secretly mobilize troops. After Jiang Chun placed the emperor under house arrest, I ambushed and killed his forces. Wiping the blood off my sword, I led Jiang Wang into the Golden Palace. Jiang Chen's face, once full of joy, quickly turned cold. The imperial seal was still cold in his hands. "Meng Shuyi, you a mere woman. How could you stand here?" he sneered. I toyed with a cold sword in my hand and replied, "If you can stand here, why can't I? The world has always been one where heroes vie for the throne, based on their own ability." He scoffed. "You're just a woman. With such ambition, you'll be remembered as a disgrace. Meng Shuyi, I'll give you one more chance. Throw away the sword, and I'll allow you to stand by my side as my empress." He said this without moving. Jiang Wang, who had been taught archery by me, drew his short bow and shot an arrow that pierced Jiang Chen's knee. His face twisted in pain as he knelt before me. "With me here, no one can disrespect my sister." Jiang Wang's face, like jade, was hardened with frost. Jiang Chen, humiliated and enraged, shouted at Jiang Wang, "We share the same blood, and yet you betray me, helping this venomous woman." "What venomous woman? Clean your mouth and address her as regent," I interrupted sharply. Despite his young age, Jiang Wang was now almost as tall as Jiang Chen. He raised his long leg and stomped on Jiang Chen's back, forcing him to kneel and submit to me. I bent down, savoring the look of defeat on Jiang Chen's face, just as he once savored my pain in the past. "Still waiting for your reinforcements?" I asked coldly. "They're all dead. No one will come to save you. I want your life, and I just need to say the word." Jiang Chen, his voice cracking, screamed for help, but there was no sound from outside. The forces he had left behind had been obliterated. At last, Jiang Chen believed my words. "Shuyi, we were once childhood friends. I was blind to you, I've wronged you. Spare me, and I'll serve you as your bed warmer, a concubine." I clicked my tongue, coldly sneering, "You're so filthy, do you think you deserve to serve me?" "Jiang Chen, do you remember how you treated me in the past?" I asked. Sweat beaded on his forehead as he struggled to lift his head. What past?" He didn't remember. "It doesn't matter. Those humiliations I'll never forget," I said. "Take the former crown prince away. After he's castrated, give him to the servants for their amusement." Jiang Chen, his eyes full of disbelief and bloodshot with rage, yelled, "Meng Shuyi, you bitch, venomous as a snake." I coldly replied, "If the former crown prince doesn't want his tongue, take it along with everything else." After dealing with Jiang Chen, I entered the water prison deep within the Eastern Palace and brought out Ji Yun, who had been imprisoned there. She was frail, covered in wounds, and trembled as she cried in my arms. Why is it you, the one to save me in the end? I treated you so badly before." I calmly replied, "You once said that women should help each other." Ji Yun cried for a long time before hesitantly asking, "Did Jiang Chen die?" "No, but he's in more pain than death," I said. She smiled faintly in relief. "Then, can I stay by your side?" When she heard Jiang Wang call me sister, she also softly called out, "Sister Meng." Ji Yun stayed by my side and became my personal female official. Jiang Chen never expected that the woman he loved all his life would finally choose to follow me. After helping Jiang Wang ascend to the throne, I became the regent. Ji Yun had many new and unconventional ideas. I helped her bring them to life. Within a year, we established a female imperial examination, opened a welfare house for abandoned female infants, and abolished many outdated customs. Her constant talk of gender equality would gradually be realized. Jiang Wang was always obedient and supported all my policies. But when he reached adulthood, his gaze toward me grew more intense and lingering. Finally, when he turned 18, he forcefully wrapped his arms around my waist. With the alcohol's influence, he buried his face in my neck, nibbling gently as he coquettishly said, "Sister, let me be your inner confidant, all right?" I neither refused nor encouraged him. As the bed curtains fell and the silk flew, I left in the middle of the night. Jiang Wang held me from behind, reluctant to let go. Sister, isn't statecraft more important than this? I reached out and patted his face, my tone detached. Do you know why I chose you? Because you're obedient. Jiang Wang, you should understand. I don't lack for men who flatter and fawn over me. Love is not something I seek. It's just a condiment. Even if he's the emperor, he cannot hinder the great path in my heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't have fought my way through and given up everything to reach this highest position. I recalled Jiang Chen's joke. A woman's ambition is too great, and she'll leave a disgraceful name for eternity. He was wrong. A woman can govern a nation, just like any great ruler. Meng Shui can do what the enlightened monarchs of history have done, turning the small love between men and women into the great love for protecting the common people is the path I relentlessly pursue. The end.